Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
It's time, Tom.
It is time.
Hi everyone.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Halloween Ends.
It ends! At long last, Dave!
It sure does. Never gonna make another one after this.
I was certain that I saw him watching me.
You pretend like you moved on, but you're actually just obsessed with death.
What are you gonna do when Michael comes back for you? Because he is coming.
But this time, something feels different. He's more dangerous.
All right.
I bet they reboot this in 5 years.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
So what happened actually is this got reverted back to another producer, and they're not going to sit on it. Like, they're going to make more. Of course they're going to make more.
Isn't it the son of the original producer?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And he is more or less said, like, yeah, of course I'll make more.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just crank these out? Like,
yeah, if I were him, I would do it.
People love him, they go see him, like, whatever. It's fine.
John Carpenter gets money.
As long as John Carpenter's getting paid, I don't care.
Yeah. So listen, we actually covered the first two of this reboot. And we made a conscious choice.
Did we cover the second one?
I believe we did.
Dave, I have no memory of that. I have no memory of that.
Why would you? I'm almost certain we covered both, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think we did, but maybe we did.
I could have sworn. Someone tell me, what is it called? Halloween Kills?
Halloween Kills, yeah.
I'll look it up. But what I was getting at is that we made a conscious effort not to cover Halloween Ends. Yeah, we covered Halloween Kills.
We made a decision not to cover it, yeah.
Yeah, we did cover Halloween Kills.
Man, I'm going to have to go listen to that episode because I don't remember us talking about that movie ever.
Yeah, and personally, I didn't watch this movie for the longest time because of Halloween Kills. This is all to say big thank you to Barry Two Meth.
Thank you.
Formerly Burrito Mouth.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
I hope I didn't just blow you up there, Barry. I hope you weren't on the lam from your crimes as Burrito Mouth. But point is that they clearly thought, no, you need to end this.
Got to get all three. Sure.
Yeah,
that's fine.
And thank you for that. And honestly, why not? Why not?
Sure. I mean, I watched this when it came to Peacock. Initially back in, I guess, October, maybe.
Me too.
And then I rewatched it for today.
Yeah, exactly. And I watched it even though I avoided it for the longest time, and then I just had a free afternoon or a night, and I popped it on, and I wasn't really paying attention to it. This time I paid a lot more attention to it, and that's all to say it's bad. It was bad the first time I watched it, and it's worse this time.
This is a very bad movie. I think it's better than Halloween Kills. I think they should have reversed the order of the sequels. Like, I think this should have been the second one.
If
they were gonna if they were gonna really execute what it seems like they were trying to execute, which is that Michael Myers is a metaphor, then it feels like this really should have been the second one. And then the third one should have been hysteria overtaking the town. I don't know. Anyway.
I have similar thoughts on this. So I have 5 pages of notes about why this movie is bad. And the first and main reason is, and I don't know, I didn't check behind the scenes. My impression of this is that it's like the new Star Wars, which is that they simply didn't have a plan for each movie.
No, they
feels
clearly didn't. It's this as a okay. So as a movie on its own, this is just kind of like weird and boring. But as the conclusion to a trilogy, it really makes it clear that all three movies are kind of rambling and don't have a plan. Like you said, they're very much like the Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
like they're
reasons.
not cohesive. There's an idea here about Michael Myers being a metaphor for evil, trauma, grief, a bunch of things that could have worked. Like, I see what they were trying to do. But they just didn't do the work to earn this. So they do this last movie where it's all of a sudden really not esoteric, but like really not literal, to the point where, like, I don't think any other character aside from Laurie, like, one of the biggest problems with this movie is, in order to pull off the idea that Michael Myers is this metaphor, every other character outside of Laurie has to be a metaphor, because they all behave in ways that don't make any sense in order to serve this idea that, oh, this whole trilogy has been about Laurie working through her grief and trauma. So that means, like, none of the other characters, they don't seem real in this movie.
Also,
like,
if that is the metaphor, there's touches of it in the other films, but they needed to establish that from the beginning.
Really needed to hit it harder from out of the gate. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to start with Corey, because Corey is, of course, people have literally done fan edits, like editing Corey out, because this movie introduces a character in the third film that should have been
never
introduced
a good move
from the start.
Never a good move. To introduce a brand new character that's the main focus of the final installment of the trilogy. Bad idea.
It's a real somehow Palpatine returned situation.
Yeah, there's a screenwriting rule that you never introduce a major character after Act 2. And this is like, there it is.
Yep. So this movie starts with a babysitter with just the shittiest kid.
Real asshole kid. Real Danny McBride written kid.
Yeah. And this made me laugh out loud, and I don't think it should have. The kid locks him in the attic, and then like a fucking Ben Stiller movie, he's like, I'm gonna kill you, and opens the door, slams it open, and the parents walk in just as they hear this, and he hits the kid with the door, and the kid falls down the stairs, and there's this big fancy stairs, so with the big pit, and he goes, wah, and slams on the ground, and I laughed so hard.
You're right, it is like a Meet the Parents bit.
It is. But that idea, so if they actually knew what they're doing, I would argue that should have been the first scene of the first Halloween. Or the second, but yeah. Or the second, but like I guess that's the thing, is the Corey arc, the idea of it, what you were saying, the broad strokes of this passing on, like I see moments in this where I'm like, oh, that's where the second film, like, for example, when he takes Michael Myers' mask and goes off into the night.
Yeah.
That should have been the end of the second film, in my opinion. Then the third film could have been him on a killing spree, and then Michael Myers also on a killing spree trying to get his mask. Like, there are stuff that they could have done that would have made this work as a trilogy, but instead they backload it because they like suddenly got this idea and they're like, oh, let's do that.
Right. It's like they're retroactively trying to make the trilogy this not surreal, but kind of. The word is escaping me, but it's like they retroactively tried to make the whole trilogy about this idea that Michael Myers is actually a metaphor for a number of different things, all related to trauma. And that's something I wanted to hit on, is a lot of the interviews about this movie when it was coming out, they all loudly proclaimed that this movie was about grief and trauma, specifically trauma.
Right, which is a lot of horror movies.
As far as I can tell, Dave, the only thing this movie says about trauma is that it doesn't belong to you. And I'm not sure that's a very responsible thing to say about trauma.
It's also the same with, if you remember, the second movie seemed to be about mob justice, and this one ends with, like, mob justice is okay.
Well,
it's like, we're all going to grind him up.
So okay,
Spoilers.
so let me just kind of read my notes here because I had thoughts about that.
Well, do we want to do this sexually? Because I do want to keep talking about why this movie clearly was made up as it went along and things that they should have like very clear signs of it. but we can jump around. It's okay.
So yeah, I just wanted to say, basically the reason why this trying to retroactively make this trilogy about Michael Myers as a metaphor makes the whole trilogy fall apart. So I get that in the first movie, Laurie is in her own prison of her own making, and Michael is in his own prison. But there's like no. They keep repeating this idea in this movie, in Halloween Ends, that, Laurie taunted him and what Laurie was doing provoked Michael. But she doesn't do anything. She's just been doing the same thing she's been doing for the past 30 years, which is turning her house into a fortress. Michael breaks out like incidentally because a couple of podcasters come and talk to him.
Right.
So there's no inciting incident that has anything to do with Laurie doing anything differently than what she's been doing for the past 30 years. She's just been preparing for the day that Michael breaks out.
It creates a situation where when that woman confronts her in the parking lot, she just seems unreasonable and shitty.
Yeah.
As an aside, she is one of the two only black characters, I believe, and they're both shitty people. I don't think that was intentional, but that just hit me this time where I was like, oh,
well.
That, like, again, I don't think it's intentional, but
there is that
damn.
Marshal in the cowboy hat that just doesn't matter.
Oh, you're right, who shows up at the very end.
It just doesn't matter at all.
Because it's that woman and the DJ, and they're both like weirdly hostile.
Well, there's also the lady that got stabbed in the neck in this, and that's who she's talking about.
Right.
There's that lady who got stabbed in I think the second movie.
Right.
Or maybe I think it was the first movie.
Second, I think. I don't know.
I think it was the first movie. Anyway.
I also want to note the part where he runs into the mom at the bar. They repeat the same thing is hilarious because why is that mom at the party bar? Like, it's so that made me laugh too, where it's like this teen party bar or a young adult, and they're all like, "Woo!" and he sits down to get a beer, and the grieving mom is there, and I'm like, "What the fuck?"
That wasn't weird to me. I can explain that.
Well, I know she's like drinking her sorrows on Halloween. Her life is
bad, Dave.
Yeah, I know.
That's why she's at the teen party.
There was just something really funny about her popping up.
Yeah, it was a little funny
scene.
that it was a little convenient that she just happened to be there. But
yeah.
Okay, so on this, so there's no like inciting incident that Laurie does. There's no action she takes to make Michael break out of prison, which is kind of necessary for this idea if Michael is supposed to be a metaphor. So like people's interest in Michael never went away. So like in this movie, Michael Myers doesn't show up until the hour mark because people have sort of forgotten about him. So he's living literally underground and he's weak. But like in the first movie, people hadn't forgot about him. Like they talk about him constantly. Obviously, Laurie is still preparing for his eventual breaking out. But there's just like no. So he's at like normal power, I guess. But there's no like exceptional incident that gives him the additional power to break out. So that already, like from jump, like if you're going to retroactively try to introduce this idea of him as a metaphor that is powered by people's belief in him, it doesn't work because it doesn't make sense in that first movie. He just incidentally breaks out. And in the second movie, Michael's like unstoppable power is supposed to be fueled by the hysteria of the town, right?
Yes.
So he gains power from the town's hysteria. But then why does he suddenly disappear and go underground at the end of that movie? Like, the hysteria doesn't die. Like, he killed half the town. Like, they wouldn't stop thinking about him.
Yeah. So this is what I was actually going to talk about, which is because one of the symptoms of it clear that they didn't know what they were going to make as they're making is that they constantly go back and forth. They repeat stuff. Michael is gone for a while. Then he comes back. Then he's gone for a while. People forget, and then they don't. Laurie is healing, and then she's not healing.
The thing is, they don't do anything different to make him come back to the surface.
Yeah, and it in fact fucks up Laurie. Because what I want to... This is kind of a different conversation, but I think this movie did a big disservice to Laurie's character. Because the first movie starts with Myers he's in jail, right? He's in custody.
He's in turbo jail.
Yeah, he's in turbo jail. What's Laurie doing? She's in hiding, right?
She's in her own jail. I get it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I understand it.
It's fine. But let's think about what happens in Halloween 2, in Halloween Kills. It ends with him killing her daughter. And it's seen as this really dark ending, right? And in this one, what is she doing? She's healed and written a book. And I was like, shouldn't that be reversed?
And the town has moved on. The town has moved on.
Wouldn't it make more sense for the first movie, even though I get that metaphor, wouldn't it make more sense for her to be writing her book at the beginning of Halloween, and then by this movie she's that makes more thematic sense, right? Third act shit, darker, everything's darker. She should be in hiding in this movie because of Michael Myers killed her fucking daughter,
or at the very,
and instead
at the
she's
very
like,
least,
I'm healing now.
Yeah,
and it's like, why are you healing in this movie?
At the very least, in the second movie.
Yeah. And so, like, that, shit like that.
This narrative is out of order to do the things that it wants to do.
Because they didn't have any plan. Because they wanted this to begin with her writing a book and healing. And it's like, well, you already, like, stop, like, it's because they fucked it up. Because they were like, well, we already had Laurie in hiding and obsessed with Michael. What's another place for us to start? There's a lot of that where they, like, wanted things. Her relationship with Corey feels like that, which is that if you remember, she turns on Corey because he stands behind a bush.
And gets Michael's eyes.
It's like, what does that fucking mean?
It's very stupid. It's very stupid. And
so they want to do this thing where they want to have her distrust Corey, but they don't want her to be like, ooh, I hate that kid because he killed a child, because that's an accident. So it starts with her liking Corey, and then she has to not like him. And so they have to think of a reason, and the reason is doesn't make much sense. So it's a lot of that where it's like, I think they just wanted her to start here, but it doesn't make sense with the last film. And they have to the problem is they have to do this front loading of lore to justify it, where they're like, yeah, Michael killed my daughter. And then, I healed and got over it.
Yeah,
and
it was fine. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Shouldn't Michael have been underground and weak in the first movie because he's been in prison for 40 years and people have almost forgot about him? Shouldn't he be weak then? Because if he's
out of order, because
if you cast it as it's all about Laurie's trauma, and everything is metaphorical to Laurie, like none of the other characters actually exist, which is kind of what this movie feels like, because none of the characters behave in a way that makes any sense for a real human being. Wouldn't that first, like, it doesn't make sense that Michael would be so.
Well, this is it's a very frustrating film or trilogy rather.
Yeah.
Because it's very clear that they just had no fucking clue.
Yeah.
It's so weird because it's like it felt like they were going to make 3, and if you're going to make 3, why didn't you?
Which have an idea
about? Yeah, why don't you have an idea? Halloween Kills is very much that too. Is that they clearly were like, I think there's this feeling where it's like they're so overwhelmed with all the fandom. And they want to do a bunch of things, but they couldn't get over that. And so, like, the second movie is like, oh, we kind of want to do the original Halloween 2, where it takes place right after the first. And it's like, okay. But then they do this whole, like, mob justice thing, and like mob panic rather. And then Laurie's barely in it, as she's barely in this one as well. And they don't know who they're really focusing on in that one. And again, like, that should have been setting up Corey. That should have easily been setting up Corey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think Corey should have been in the first film as a background character. In the second film, we could have seen them turning against Corey. And the realization is, oh, this is about... And then by the end of the second film, he puts on the mask. And you're like, shit, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third film is more fun and games, where it's like, Corey going out and then Michael Myers going out. Like, I think the second one, Michael Myers could have been more in the sewers for that. There's just like a clear, it's just so bizarre to see 3 movies that seem entirely different from each other, that are all written by the same people, that they seem like conflicting. I also want to point out that there is so many elements in this film that are just pulled from other, mostly Halloween films. Michael Myers lived in the sewers in Halloween Resurrection. The garbage disposal is straight from Halloween H2O. The Rob Zombie Halloween 2 starts with Michael Myers in hiding, and I believe a book. The Corey, this isn't Halloween, but he's basically like, what is it, Friday the 13th New
Part
Beginning?
5.
Like,
Yeah,
part 5. Yeah, he's also specifically designed after Arnie and Christine, and it's just like, it just feels like a big, messy... We love horror movies, and we want to do all the things. And that's okay, but it ended up being,
It's just
such
that
a
it's
dry
not. It's
fart.
not cohesive. Yeah, it's just this. It's rambling. Like
Yeah.
this movie especially feels rambling. But when you consider it as the final installment of a trilogy, it makes the whole story really, really rambling.
Yes. And it's also like... Oh, go on.
So even if you consider all of the characters as representative of... So if the idea is that they're all metaphors for Laurie's grief and it's all about her having to come to terms with it, like, it doesn't make any sense. Because it's just about... like her, I guess you could say it's about like her grief or like the evil infecting people, but she doesn't really do anything. Like it's such a weird statement if that's what they're going for, because like they have the first movie where she's preparing for it like a doomsday prepper, and that was apparently the wrong answer. And then it's basically that bleeds over to the second movie, because the second movie takes place on the same night. So the third movie is supposed to be some time has passed. She's healed. She's come to terms with it. She's trying to raise her grandmother, and has very, like, at one point when her granddaughter Allison is mad, she's like punching the microwave, and she's like, "Oh, calm down, calm down." She's like, "Well, can I just be angry?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, you can be angry, but be careful, because being angry can smashing things is fine, but it can become addictive if you're not careful." So it seems like in the third movie, she's in a good place as far as coming to terms with what happened to her, like her trauma. But then it's like, no, it has this really confusing message of like, no, it has to infect her granddaughter and has to infect her granddaughter's boyfriend, and they're going to be these weird Bonnie and Clyde murder duo almost. And then like, actually what you need to do is stake your trauma down on the kitchen island and slash its throat and cut its wrist. It's like, I don't know what you're saying about this.
I don't know what you're trying to say. I
have no idea what you're trying to say.
Like, yeah, where the second film is like, mob justice, be careful. And then at the end of this one, they're like, where he literally says like, that's not how we do things. And he's like, we do it this way tonight. And it's like, oh, okay, so this is good.
You're right, because it's like the town needs to heal.
What it's trying to say.
Right, because in the previous film, in Halloween Kills, the mob justice thing was bad. Because they killed the wrong person. They overextend themselves, and Michael murders them all anyway, somehow. Like, he just is supernaturally powerful at the end of that. But apparently, as soon as that movie ended, he just withered away into nothing and had to go hide underground because these movies are bad and think we're all stupid.
If people are asking why we're so mad, I want to explain that actually.
Okay.
Because I have a very specific reason I'm mad at this movie. I have a whole section, or I made notes that kept saying, so this is really what they thought we wanted. And I guess what I want to point out is this is probably the last time Jamie Lee Curtis will do a Halloween movie.
Oh, yeah.
This is the last time. And that really bothers me, because what they thought we wanted was a Halloween where Michael Myers shows up 40 minutes in and then barely shows up. And then 15 minutes later, finally gets a kill. His kill count, he kills 3 people. And I'm not saying the quality of Halloween films is how many people Michael Myers killed, but that's, that I think that like kind of reflects it. Also, the murdering and the horror part doesn't start until about an hour and 20 minutes, which again, the original Halloween had a lot of lead up. It had a lot of tension. There's nothing wrong with that.
Because it was building tension. This movie doesn't do that.
This doesn't. And instead, it's about fucking Corey and his and her granddaughter, and like the scenes where they're like emo music's playing and they're on their motorcycles, or like they're on the radio station and they're talking like about their feelings and stuff. I kept having these moments of like, really? This is what you thought we wanted for Jamie Lee Curtis's last Halloween movie? This is what it was. Like, not about her. Not about any, like, she's a background character.
Even if, like, I'm not even coming at it. Yeah. Finish your thought?
It just feels so off the mark, and it feels like one of the things I noticed in this one is, why do they keep emphasizing the radio station? It's constant. In this movie, there's billboards for the radio station. Corey keeps looking to the radio station tower.
The idea that evil spreads. that it's contagious.
I guess, yeah.
But that just reinforces the idea that Laurie's trauma doesn't belong to her, which is a really weird thing to say. Like, I don't understand what this movie thinks it's even saying about anything.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, I don't mind necessarily, my issue with this movie is not that it doesn't give fans what they wanted, because I'll never stand by that, really.
I understand what you're saying, but I think that would have been solved. Like, I think you could still have Corey if you didn't have to fucking pack this film with Corey.
Right. He should have been introduced earlier. And because he wasn't, make this character the granddaughter.
Yes, this is just all about
because if you're talking about how if you don't deal with trauma, it infects subsequent generations, it infects everybody around you, then it should have been her granddaughter. Like, right. Allison should have been the one who accidentally killed a kid while she was babysitting him and is now at risk of being infected by this evil that is consumed Laurie and is powering Michael. Like, if that's the statement you wanted to make, that's the way you do it. Like, don't introduce a brand new fucking character in the final film of the trilogy.
Yeah.
That we have no reason to care about, and then we only spend time with him for the first hour of this movie.
It's awful. By the way, also the spreading of trauma. Didn't they do that already in one of the sequels with the little girl? They do the thing where I think it's Halloween 5.
Oh,
it's the one. I think it's the Curse of Michael Myers. They literally do a thing where, for the whole movie, spoilers for this Halloween sequel, where Michael Myers is going after a little girl because she's the last surviving.
I think that's 5.
Sibling, it's his niece or something, and then it ends with her putting on a mask and killing her sister or something like that.
And we do that in Jason with Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they introduce Tommy in 4, and then in 5 he puts the mask on at the very end, like he's going to be Jason now. Like, it's not even a new idea.
Yeah,
and like obviously, like people hated it so much in Friday the 13th that they immediately bought it back for Part 6 and brought Jason back. But, like, they at least did it in a way that made sense because it was a character we already knew. We understood why he would be in this position to inherit this trauma because he saw Jason murder a bunch of people he cared about and then took part in Jason's killing. Like, Tommy was the one who smashes Jason's fucking head apart with a machete at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that he would be vulnerable to this, but in this movie they introduce a brand new character that we don't give a fuck about, has not had anything to do with the previous 2 movies, and then we're supposed to my goodness, like it's not even a new idea that you're doing, and it's been done clumsily before but more effectively even then. Like, even in the 5th Friday the 13th movie they did this better than you guys did it.
Just burn it all to the ground, Tom.
It's so dumb, Dave.
You're supposed to say, "I'll light the match," Tom.
Nope.
I'll light the match.
No.
It's
also so they have to, and I guess like if I'm giving this movie the hugest benefit of the doubt, like I've already alluded to, you could look at it as like none of the other characters are real. They're just like.
They're in her head.
They're all metaphors for what Laurie is working through. But even then, like it's really hard to explain why Allison, the granddaughter, is just instantly smitten with Corey.
That would
and nobody makes a decision in this movie that makes any sense. Like the whole town is mad at Laurie for Michael Myers. Like.
Why?
They're like, you provoked that man. How the fuck did she provoke him? He was in jail. She wasn't sending him letters.
Yeah. Well, no, this is... Okay, I wanted to get into this.
He broke out independently of anything to do with Laurie and then came right back to Haddonfield and started murdering people.
I want to get into this because there's a lot of things in this movie besides the broad strokes, because we've been talking about the broad strokes, that just don't make any sense. Michael Myers, so they push Corey off a bridge.
They sure do. The band, and then the fucking marching band bullies.
Yes,
they're in the marching band, and they're
start with those
bullies.
Those bullies do not exist.
No, they don't. They're Stephen King bullies.
Teens that are bullying like a 25-year-old, like
a 25-year-old who killed someone.
Yeah,
you wouldn't bully that guy. You'd stay far the fuck away from him.
He gets so mad. he breaks
he crushes a bottle of Yoo-Hoo in his fucking hand.
And they reply by going, I wrote it down. One of them goes, "Look at you. Got milk everywhere."
That is Hulk strength.
Yeah.
Like, that's
It's
alarming
so
that guy did that.
There's some of the worst characters. They shove him off a bridge, and then Michael Myers drags Corey into the sewer. And I was like, finally, they're going to kill Corey. Thank God. But no, he doesn't kill Corey. He drags him into a sewer and then goes and waits and hides, right? That is what Michael Myers does. Because Corey gets dragged into the sewer and then they show him waking up.
The idea is that Michael's weak and he's going to infect this new kid, but it's so clumsy. Like
it's so weird.
Why is he weak if the whole town is still so angry about Michael Myers that they're bullying the shit out of this kid and calling him Michael Myers, and that Laurie can't go to the grocery store without getting berated by people for antagonizing Michael Myers?
Yeah.
It makes no sense that Michael would be weak in this situation. Yeah. If you're going with the idea that he's a metaphor and he's powered by people's belief in him and he's powered by the trauma or the grief, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
It doesn't. Also, this movie can't decide if it's supernatural or not. Really, because you're right. I interpreted that as he gave Corey the evil, but they also
yeah.
But also then what is the point of him killing that kid at the beginning? Because if evil isn't there's two messages there. Is the idea of we make our boogeymen, but no, we don't, because Michael Myers literally infects Corey with boogeyman.
Here's what I will say. Here's what I will say to that. It's clumsy, but I get it. He killed a kid by accident, and he's vilified by the town, so they're making him into the boogeyman.
Right. That kid had it coming too.
That kid sucked. Yeah. That kid deserved to get thrown off the 6th Sense stairs.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure those are the same staircases.
I'm almost certain. Anyway. Sorry, this is a nitpick. Later, he goes to the abandoned house, and I was like, in this housing market? No, I'm sorry.
Nope.
No one would care that a kid died in there.
A 3-story house would not stay abandoned.
No, it
in
would
a small town in Illinois.
No. But that's a nitpick.
Yeah. So, I get that that's what they're going for with that idea, but boy, it's just not executed well. None of this is really present in a way that's detectable in the first two movies. I guess it is a little bit in the second movie because Michael gets driven more and more into a frenzy the more the town tries to fight back. But
it just feels like the rules, the rules are unclear.
Yeah,
again, is he supernatural? If he's supernatural, what are the rules of it?
Well, he's clearly supernatural because the murder heals Corey's hand. So it's they are explicitly telling us that this is a supernatural thing that's happening.
So I guess the question is then, how is he supernatural?
I don't know. It doesn't matter, but
I want to move on.
Okay, yeah, let's move on. Yeah.
I want to, well, this is not moving on, but it is, I want to talk about, so real quick, the girl, who's crushed under the gate says the guy walks up to him and goes, "Stacy's dead." She replies, "You're dead too." Who would say that?
Nobody would say that. Nobody would. She would say, "Look out."
Yeah.
She would say,
"Oh my God."
Yeah.
Good
she
God.
would say something.
Now's not the time for a fucking quip.
She wouldn't do an artful quip like she knows she's in a movie.
Yeah. Again, nitpick. Not nitpick.
It's not a nitpick. It's emblematic of the problem with this film.
Yes. Well, okay. So I want to talk about the
nobody
ending.
behaves like a human being, and this movie thinks it's way more clever than it actually is.
Yeah. So the ending of this movie is Laurie, her grandkid runs off with Corey. And Laurie, they set it up a little bit, which is I don't know what Laurie's going to do without you. So Laurie goes upstairs, and she gets a gun out.
This is embarrassing. Yes,
this
continue.
is embarrassing. And she gets the gun out, and she loads it, and she's crying, and she's sad. And then she calls the cops and reports a suicide. And we're like, oh, fuck, she's going to kill herself. And then she points the gun to her head. Then we cut to Corey creeping up the stairs.
Oh, no, Dave. It pans over to the wall, and we hear the gun go off, and some detritus hits the wall.
Yes, but no, that is the same as when it's him creeping up the stairs. It doesn't matter because it's stupid both ways. And then he walks in.
It's more stupid, the idea that, anyway.
No. So then she's pointing the gun at him and says, did you really think I'd kill myself? So when I first watched the scene, I thought, oh, maybe she was going to start to kill herself and then she heard somebody. But no, she explicitly says this is a ruse. But the question obviously is, who was the ruse for? Because no one's in the room with her.
No one's in the room. So why did she pretend to shoot herself? Like, the reveal is that she actually shot a pumpkin and the pumpkin splattered its pumpkin guts on the wall. But why would you do that? That's for nobody's benefit except for the people watching the movie, because nobody's in the room with her.
Yeah, even if she thinks like, oh, maybe someone's in the hallway at that time, she's still, all the lead up is still like, why is she doing that? Why would she report a suicide? Because it's more likely
Corey's
cops
not listening. You're right. Corey's not listening to the police band.
Right.
Like, Corey doesn't know that she's up there planning to shoot herself in the head or planning to fake shooting herself in the head. And then she pretends she shoots a pumpkin so it splatters on the wall to fake us out. Like, that's, And
then
nobody else is in the room, Dave. That is just for us. That's just for the audience.
It keeps going though, because then she shoots at Corey, and then she puts Corey in a position where he has the knife, and she says to him, "You came here to kill me, so do it." And then the car rolls up, and so I think the idea here is she does want Corey to kill her in front of her granddaughter, Allison, because I'm not
she
sure.
wants to prove that Corey's bad, I guess.
Right, but she doesn't know Allison is coming there.
Nope.
She has no idea.
Nope.
So I'm so fucking confused about, okay, she called it a suicide. She should have said there's a break-in.
Right.
I think it's Michael Myers because everybody would come there immediately. But she doesn't do that.
Nope.
And then she fake kills herself, and then she wants to real kill herself. And I'm like, what is going on? And then Corey, on his side, well, then she says, did you really think that Allison was going to be with you? A lot of did you really thinks in this part. And I'm like, all right, that's just bad writing. And so I think she was going to so she was going to fake her suicide so Corey could walk in, and then she could shoot Corey so that Corey could kill her. And then Corey slits his own throat. And now I have a question about what Corey wants, because Corey was like, hey, Allison, that's the granddaughter, meet me at this diner, right?
Mm-hmm. And
then he stands her up, but he makes those plans, meet me at the diner, and then immediately goes to Michael Myers and grabs the mask, and then is like, I'm going to be Michael Myers. So did he never intend to meet her at the diner? Because he then,
Dave?
he says,
I don't know.
I don't know either, because then he goes on a killing spree, and I was like, what was the diner? What was the point of having her meet him at the diner if he was just going to go on a killing spree? And then he shows up at Laurie's house to kill her, and it's like, okay, maybe he was trying to distract her. And so it seems like Corey wants to live and kill Laurie and stuff. Well, and then in this moment, he slits his own throat. And it's like, I don't know why you did that, Corey. I don't know why anybody is doing anything at this point.
There's an element here where you have to sort of disregard I guess you don't have to, but there's an element where Corey and Allison are trying to reject the trauma that their parents' generation is trying to foist upon them.
Right.
And I get that. That's fine. That's, an acceptable premise, but
But the metaphors are making the actual actions in the movie.
There's three or four mixed metaphors here. So it just culminates in people doing things that make no fucking sense constantly.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what Corey wanted. I don't know what he was trying to do from beginning to end.
Right, and this collision here is I think the best example of it, because Laurie calling cops and saying there's a suicide, faking her suicide for nobody's benefit except for the audience. Attacking Corey and goading him into killing her, so that the cops will show up after she called in a suicide, and then she's there I don't know. And then Corey stabs himself in the neck because he's like, well, if I can't have Allison, nobody can have her. I sort of get that a little bit, because he's like, well, if we can't live without carrying your baggage, then fuck it. I sort of get that, but it's not consistent with anything else he does.
Yeah. No, because they wanted it's this idea of like, we love elevated horror. We love Jordan Peele, but the idea, the way that works is that it all fits naturally with the characters. You kind of have
to be Jordan Peele to do, like, you need to be a little smart about it if you're going to do it.
It has to work on both levels,
right.
And this doesn't work on either because it's so messy. And
right,
like,
it's
so
like the mixed, so it doesn't
like
work on a, it doesn't work on a literal level, and it doesn't work on a metaphorical level. Yeah,
they're like Sims that people are just like controlling and making do various things. And then Michael Myers finally fucking shows up. And what the fans have been waiting for is 5 minutes of this film. And I know you're right where it's like they don't have to bow down to fans, but it's so anticlimactic that when Laurie finally faces her trauma, there's not even like a moment like spent on it. She's just like, oh, Michael Myers is here. And then like 5 minutes later, it's over. And it's like, really? So that's what this was leading up to, is like 1% of the film. Like, imagine a whole cat and mouse between them. Like Halloween Kills, I thought that was going to be a cat and mouse between them in like a hospital, much like Halloween 2.
And yeah, like this idea of the town like being like, no, fuck this guy. Like that.
Right.
That was an interesting idea that they just squandered.
Right. And literally, like, she finds out Michael Myers is back and kills him within the span of 5 minutes.
Very easily, too. She very easily kills him.
Yeah. And it's
she spent 30 years or 40 years making her house into a fortress. It was this elaborate plan. They barely make it out alive, and it doesn't even kill Michael successfully, so he goes and tears through the town after that. But it turns out that she could just take him out in a fucking fist fight in the kitchen.
Yep. It's such a clear, like, it felt like they wrote the screenplay and was like, oh, wait, we forgot to have Michael Myers and Laurie to have interact, and they just added it. It feels like that. It's like this weird footnote on the film.
Like, she stakes him down to the kitchen island, drops a refrigerator on his leg so he can't get up, stabs him in the heart, and then slashes his throat and his wrists. And it's like, we've seen Michael explode before.
Yeah.
Like, why is this gonna like, her plan in the first movie trapped him in the basement of her house, and she burned the house down around him, and he lived through that.
Right.
It's like she spent 4 decades of preparation to take this motherfucker out, and it didn't work. And then she kills him pretty easily in a fist fight in a kitchen.
Yep.
It's really like...
And then they do mob justice on him, and she writes about it in her book, and I was like, you probably shouldn't
write about that.
Yeah. That's going to get you in trouble.
Like, I get that... Like, I'm not coming at it from like, oh, Michael's super strong, and they nerfed him in this fight. I'm just going by the rules that this trilogy has laid out for us. And it's like, even if he is so reduced by people's lack of belief in him, like, it doesn't add up because the town clearly hasn't stopped being obsessed with Michael Myers. Every single scene, some character brings up Michael Myers. So it's like nobody's stopped thinking about him. So it's not like nobody's clapping to believe in fairies, so Tinkerbell won't come back to life. You know what I mean? It's like, if you're it's like we already said, like the movie is trying to work on 2 levels, but it's not reconciling them. So it doesn't work as like a logical narrative, and it doesn't work as a metaphor because it's not thought out. It doesn't jive.
It also just doesn't work thematically, in the sense that, like, imagine if the third Lord of the Rings, Sauron was like not really an issue. Like, and they were like, and there's this new guy, and he's like, it's that where Michael Myers is the enemy. He is the antagonist of the Halloween films, period. And it's okay to do this idea of Corey. It is okay. But to have him so weak that he's barely an issue at the third film is like, well, okay. I mean, that's like such a thematic mistake in like how movies and trilogies should set up, where it's like, no, the third film is where shit goes down.
Right.
And he should be more powerful than ever.
There's a moment I want to call out here, because Michael drags Corey into the sewer, right? And Corey essentially feeds him a victim to help him gain his power, and it heals him. And then they go murder the doctor and his lover together.
Yeah, which felt like a 90s, like a early 2000s horror, that sequence. I don't know why.
It sucked.
It just did to
It was
me.
bad.
Yeah, it's not,
It was really
it's not
bad.
that good.
It was bad and stupid.
Yeah, because it's also like, are they coordinating? Like, because Michael Myers is hiding in the house. It doesn't matter.
Anyway,
it's just
it's stupid, Dave. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
And they I guess they think we're all dumb. Anyway, so what ends up happening is, Corey comes to the house to kill Laurie, but ends up getting shot and stabbing himself in the throat, but he's not dead.
Right.
So Michael shows up and kills Corey. And I guess just uses that to fuel himself. But like, I feel like the way they're setting this up with the idea of evil and trauma gets passed down from generation to generation unless you deal with it, Corey should have killed Michael.
Yeah, or Michael killing Corey should have made him like Super Shredder or something.
Right.
Like there should have been something.
I think if you're going to stick with the theme, Corey should have killed Michael, and then Corey is like the thing that Laurie has to defeat, because she has to come to terms with the fact that I haven't dealt with this, and now it's infected the subsequent generation, and now I have to deal with it in the subsequent generation because I didn't deal with it 30 or 40 years ago.
And you could argue the idea of like Michael Myers isn't one person. And so she is essentially fighting Michael Myers still, even if it's Corey.
Yeah, she's
like,
still
you could
fighting
make that
the
argument.
evil, the same evil.
Yeah, and I think if they tried to like make it more explicit that is what is in Corey is what killed her, or what killed all the people, her daughter, and so on. Like, and they tried to do that a little bit with like the dad being like, I looked in his eyes, it's not the same person. But then they would have. It's almost like a producer was like, no, you can't kill Michael Myers. He has to be the final boss. So they had to like at the last minute have Corey slit his own throat. Like they build up Corey so much, and then he's not a problem. He literally is not a problem for Laurie. She just shoots him.
He stabs himself
throat.
in the neck, and then Michael breaks his neck.
Yeah. It's such a bummer.
It's dumb. Like there's ideas there that I recognize and appreciate, but they didn't do it well. Period.
Yeah. It's really bad. Folks, this movie is really bad.
This movie is a piece of shit. Like it's better than Halloween Kills, but this is a piece of shit.
Yeah, and I'll say like there's some stuff where it's like there's some talent in like the directing. There's some throughout. There's some like clear.
Yeah,
like,
David Gordon Green's not bad as a director.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Sure.
I love the use of Dead Kennedys Halloween because it's thematically fitting. It's also just a song about Halloween, but like the song Halloween by Dead Kennedys is about hiding your true self most of the year and so on and so forth. So like it makes sense. I think Will Patton's always good, especially when he plays like a lovesick old man. Like I just want to take him home. I
loved that. I did like that they made Will Patton and Jamie Lee Curtis get together at the end. Oh, that's sweet.
And she was great. I wanted to see just a love story between those two actors in another movie. Jamie Lee Curtis is obviously great. Of course she's great.
Yeah.
I think that's what I mean when I'm like, what made me mad is like you have Jamie Lee Curtis. She's there.
You have Jamie Lee Curtis. This is the last time you're going to get her for a Halloween movie.
And she's doing great.
Mm-hmm.
She's killing it. Why give her something good to do? Please, for the love of God. And they don't. And they're like, yeah, but what about Corey? And it's like, fuck Corey. I don't know, man.
If you're going to do Corey, do it right. Like this is weird and clearly retroactive. It's so clearly retroactive.
It is. Also, they used the Halloween 3 font, and I was like, you don't deserve that.
Nope.
You don't deserve Season of the Witches font. I'm sorry.
You don't get to be Season of the Witch, you pieces of shit.
Yeah, you're not as good as Season of the Witch.
You're not as good as Season of the Witch.
And that movie didn't have Michael Myers in it.
How dare you?
Yeah. Had Tom Atkins. Bring him back.
I want them to do the original Halloween vision that John Carpenter had, where they just made new movies each year that had the Halloween title, but they were entirely different stories. Just do that.
That would have been cool, yeah.
Do that.
Do that.
We've done everything you can do with Michael Myers.
Yeah, we've used every part of the Michael Myers.
And Michael Myers is not fun in the way that Jason is fun or that Freddy Krueger is fun. So it's like we don't need to keep seeing him.
Busta Rhymes nailed him in the balls.
Busta Rhymes attached a car battery to his balls.
Yeah, we've done everything.
Yep.
And to the point that this movie's repeating things, you know?
Everything this movie does is repeating something that was either done in the Halloween franchise itself or in other horror franchises that feature a slasher as the main character.
Yeah, so
it's like this is clearly we're so beyond scraping the bottom of the barrel here. So
yeah, so it's time to move on.
Yeah. Basically, the most subversive thing that this movie had to offer was remaking the least liked Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah.
You remade the worst Jason movie. Congratulations.
Right. And going back to I'm not trying to attack the filmmakers, because what we're saying is basically there's nowhere to go with this franchise. It's kind of the same with Scream, which is the best. You could get the best filmmakers to make Scream.
At least
it's not going to be that impressive.
We talked about it a little bit on the most recent Hypecast, but at least Scream has the element of being a whodunit.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a mystery to solve each time.
Yeah,
but this is just who cares at this point?
I want a Halloween whodunit where Michael Myers is there the whole time, and everybody's like, "Who could it be?" And they just can't land on the guy.
Right. He's just sitting with his hands on his knees.
Yeah, exactly. Just like a mansion whodunit, like Clue, where one of them's Michael Myers and he never speaks. I want that.
That's a really good sketch idea, actually.
It is. It really is. Like whodunit, where one of the people is just clearly
and it's one of them is just like a fucking clearly Jason Voorhees or something.
Yeah.
That's a fun idea.
Oh, I like that. Let someone make that sketch.
Let's make that sketch, Dave.
All right.
You guys can't do it. We copyrighted that idea.
Yep. Copyright. We just said it. Anything else to say about Halloween?
No, I hate this movie. I hate that I had to watch it twice.
Yeah, well, I'm actually glad I did, because when I watched it the first time, I wasn't paying attention, and I came out of it being like, it's not terrible. I mean, it was still bad, but I was like, whatever. This time I'm like, okay, now that I'm paying attention, this is really bad. This is a real bummer, and I'm glad we got to tell people.
Here's the last thing I want to say about this movie.
Yeah,
is that it ends the same way the original Halloween ends, with showing the different shots of Laurie's house. Except now, in the original film, it shows them all shrouded in darkness, because the idea is you're not safe anywhere. Like, you're not safe in the suburbs. You're not safe in your own home. This one is showing them all in the light of day, to represent that Laurie has worked through her trauma, and now she's better, and now she's safe in her own home. She's safe in the suburbs, et cetera, et cetera. This movie did not fucking earn that.
No, it did
You don't
not.
get to do that, movie. Like, I appreciate what you're doing, but you don't get to do that.
Yeah, don't make me think about the original.
You don't
Halloween.
deserve to take that victory lap, motherfucker. So,
yeah. It's a good idea. Good idea.
Yeah, like I said, David Gordon Green is not a bad director.
Right. It's really about the script for this.
It's the script the script for all three of these movies have been trash.
Yeah.
Like, real trash. Like,
these
are bad movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, most audiences agree, at least. At least people watched this and was like, yeah, this is bad.
This is not very good.
Yeah, and
I have seen some people really trying to stick up for this movie, but it's like, no. It's not. Like, I see what it was going for, but like, recognizing that it was attempting something is not the same thing as pulling that thing off.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm not going to give it credit for attempting something that it did not succeed in doing.
I could try to do a wheelie right, and then if I eat shit, I don't want people applauding me.
Right, I could try to do it. I could go outside, try to do a kickflip, and fucking pile drive my head through my fucking car window. I don't get points for doing that kickflip.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you fucked up.
Yeah, that's how Tony Hawk works.
You didn't do it. Like, I don't get the same recognition as Tony Hawk because I'm like, I'm going to try to skateboard.
Oh, I meant the game. Like, you don't get the points in Tony Hawk if you don't land it.
Right, yeah. But same idea.
Yeah. We love metaphors.
I'm not the same as Tony Hawk because I attempted to do something cool on a skateboard.
Yeah, exactly. But John Carpenter probably got some money out of this. So
I did want to call that out. The music is really cool in this movie. It's John Carpenter and his son and a third person, I think. that did the score, and it's like a revisitation of the original Halloween score, and they add some new elements to the score, and they do some kind of cool new tricks. The score in this movie is really cool, and I like it.
Yeah. This is like a compliment sandwich without the first compliment and like a mile of insults
Yeah.
between the one piece of bread.
Well, I wanted to compliment. I wanted to make sure I called out the music because it's the only
It's very
contribution John Carpenter made, and it's genuinely good. Like,
Yeah.
they do a new version of the theme that's really good. The score is just good throughout.
It's a good score.
So I didn't want to leave that on the table.
Yeah, so everybody check out the score.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, just download
Yeah.
the score. Honestly,
Download
just
the score.
download. You don't need to watch this movie. Download the score.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
all
John
right.
Carpenter already got paid for the movie, so just download the score and give him a little bit more money.
Yeah, and honestly, it's one of the few times where I'm like, yeah, make more of these.
Oh, I don't
Because
care.
John
They can
Carpenter
make
gets
50
paid.
more of these. I don't give a shit. Just keep paying
Yeah.
John Carpenter. That's fine.
It's not like Terminator where it's like, well, at least James Cameron gets money. It's like he's fine.
James
I mean, John
Cameron's
Carpenter's
fine.
fine. John Carpenter's fine too, but you know,
John
I
Carpenter's fine
like,
too, but like, yeah, he's not James Cameron rich. So
Yeah, exactly. But let's make him James Cameron rich so he can
yeah, let's do
explore
that.
the oceans.
Let's do that. Let's keep making more Prince of Darkness sequels.
Yes. Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. And big thank you to Barry, to Math. They completed the trilogy for you all. And this is the end of Halloween Ends. This was through our Patreon, and if you're interested, you can go to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. If you go on there, there's all sorts of goodies. For just $5 a month, you get access to Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder's a Maniac. We also do stuff with the small beans, like Star Trek The Next Futurama and Spiel Boys. We also watch movies every Friday night. That's a tier on there. There's a bunch of tiers, including a tier like where you get custom We Just Watched episodes.
Yeah.
So check that out.
Yeah. We also have a store.
Yeah.
Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store, where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of crap. So check that out.
Check it out.
Slap
Why don't
your
you now?
little Shatner masked peepers on that.
Yeah.
All right.
Slap your shats.
Slap
Gamefully
your
unemployed.
shats.
Slap your shats.
Slap your shats. That needs to be a shirt, Dave.
Yeah, it is now. Yeah.
Yep.